Hello, year twos. How are you doing? Are you keeping well? Good, 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 good. Mr. Morrissey here with another problem of the week. Yay! Woohoo! Yay! Problem of the week! Yay! All right. Woo! Shh! Oh yeah! Shh! All right, all right. Calm down. Calm down. Don't get carried away. It's just a maths lesson. Phew. What are these people like? Well, in this video, we're going to keep exploring the topic of fractions. If you remember, last time we looked at equal and unequal parts, and in this lesson, we're going to look at a half, recognizing a half and writing a half and thinking about why we write it that way. Now, fractions can be a little bit tricky for some children to begin with, but do bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Get it? You know, don't shake your head at me, Lucas. How rude! I'm so sorry. I forgot myself. I didn't introduce you. So sorry. This is Lucas the bear, and Lucas, this is the year two children. Say hello. Hello. Lucas is my maths assistant and he helps me from time to time with these videos. So, shall we get started with the lesson? What do you think? Yeah, nodding. Okay, let's begin. We'll start with a quick recap of last week's lesson. You might recognize these shapes. I split both these squares up into parts. But did I split them up into equal or unequal parts? Well, this one we saw was unequal parts. For instance, small part there. Big part there, not the same, unequal. Whereas this square here, we split up into equal parts. In fact, 4 equal parts. This lesson is all about recognizing a half. And a half is a special kind of number. It's a kind of fraction. Fractions are always about looking at equal parts. When you're talking about fractions, you're always looking for equal parts. Look at these two shapes. Let's start with this rectangle. I'm going to split it up into parts. Now have a think. Do I split it up into equal or unequal parts? If I draw a line from there to there. So what do you think? Have I split it up into equal or unequal parts? That's right. I split it up into equal parts, haven't I? How many equal parts have I split the whole up into? Yes, I split the whole up into 2 equal parts. This part here and this part here. And they're both exactly the same. Now, when you split a whole up into 2 equal parts, each of those parts is worth a half. So this is a half, and also this is a half. And altogether we say there are 2 halves. So 1 half, 2 halves. What about over here with the triangle? Look carefully. What about this time? Have I split the triangle up into equal parts? What do you think? Yes, I have. How many equal parts have I split the whole into? Well, it's 1, 2 equal parts. Isn't that right? Now, I hope you can see that the 2 parts are exactly the same. They're identical. They're facing different directions, but maybe you could imagine if it was a piece of paper folding along this line, and those 2 triangles would fit exactly over each other, wouldn't they? So they must be exactly the same. So what is each of those parts worth? Well, we've split the whole up into 2 equal parts, so each part is worth a half. 1 half, isn't that right? That's worth a half, and that is also worth a half of the whole. So what is a half? What would your explanation be at this point in the lesson? Well, when you split a whole into 2 equal parts, each part is worth a half. That would be my explanation. I hope that makes sense. Now, we've seen how we write a half in words, but a half is a number. So how do we write it as a number? We'll use this sentence to help us. It'll also help us understand why we write the fraction that way. So the whole has been split into equal parts. How many equal parts has the whole been split up into? Look at the rectangle and the triangle if you need to be reminded. Well, each time the whole has been split up into 2 equal parts. So one of those parts is written like this. That's how we write a half. Can you see why we write it that way? Well, let's look at the 2 on the bottom first. So what does that 2 represent? What does that 2 tell you? What would your answer be? My answer would be that the 2 represents the 2 equal parts the whole's been split up into. That's why there's a 2 there. And what about this 1? What does the 1 represent? The 1 represents one of those parts. So this is 1/2 of the whole triangle. And this is 1/2 of the whole triangle. And same here. This is 1/2. And this is 1/2. Let's look at some more examples. Let's look at this rectangle and split it up again. Maybe like this. Okay, what can you see? What do you think this time? Think about our learning so far. What are your thoughts? Have I split up the whole rectangle, into 2 halves? Have I? And how do you know? What's your explanation? The answer is no. This time I have not split up the whole rectangle into 2 halves because they are 2 unequal parts. And fractions involve equal parts, only equal parts. And what about the triangle? Doop. Have a look and have a think. What do you see now? Have I split up the whole triangle into 2 halves? How do you know? What would your explanation be? Well, once again, the answer is no, because these are not equal parts. I have not split up the whole into equal parts. So it's not a half. It's 2 parts, but it's 2 unequal parts. So that's not 2 halves. Final question. Let's start with the square on the left. Do you think the green shaded section is 1/2 of the whole square? Well, why do you think so? Can you explain in a full, clear sentence? The answer is yes, that is 1/2. Why is it 1/2? Well, there are 2 equal parts and one of those parts is coloured in green. So that is 1/2 of the total. Now let's look at the square on the right-hand side. What do you think this time? The green parts, do they make up 1/2 of the whole square? Are the green shaded parts 1/2 of the whole? Think really, really carefully here. The answer is yes, the green parts do make up 1/2 of the whole square. Now, why is this? You might have thought it's not 1/2 because you don't see 2 equal parts. You saw 4 equal parts maybe. So you thought that can't be 1/2. But if you imagine this green square swapping with this white square, can you imagine that in your head? And then the square on the right would be exactly the same as the one on the left. So sometimes with fractions, you might have to imagine rearranging the parts to be able to see what fraction it shows. I hope that made sense. Now it's over to you with some questions for you to do yourselves in your own time. Number 1, there's a picture of a pie. Look at it carefully to help you fill in those gaps. Number 2, look at the 4 pictures which represent 1/2. Number 3, we've got a problem about Laura, Susie and Jasmine who are running a race. Read the clues carefully to help you work it out. And 2 more problems here to get you thinking a little bit more deeply. First, an odd one out question. Which of those is the odd one out? Explain your answer. Full, clear sentence, please. And on the right, do you agree with Sandy? And you must explain why. Another explanation. I'm going to go through the answers in a moment, so pause here if you still need to go through them yourself. Number 1, the whole pie is split up into 2 equal parts. That means each part is worth a half. And that's the same as 1 half, written like this, 1 over 2. Which pictures represent 1 half? The first one, the second one. What about these? Not equal parts, not equal parts. For number 3, I'll try to find the halfway point first of all, splitting up the whole line into 2 equal parts. And that's the middle. So halfway and middle are the same. Now that's Susie here. Now Laura has run further than halfway. She's closer to the end than Susie is. She could be anywhere here. Anywhere here is correct. Now Jasmine has run less than halfway. She's closer to the start than Susie. She could be anywhere here. And these are some answers to the problems. Now we've got one more challenge for you. In fact, this was Lucas's idea. Isn't that right, Lucas? Yeah. Do you want to tell them or will I? Okay, I'll tell them. We want you to look out for halves in your everyday lives. And if you look carefully, I bet you find loads of examples of halves in your homes. And maybe you'll be able to find other fractions too. Do look carefully. Good luck with that. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves and your families. And I'll see you next week. Okay? Bye. Say goodbye. Bye-bye.